Happy full moon lunar eclipse, March 25th, 2024. Let's do a brief sound check. I think everything's good here. How's everybody doing? Yeah, you made it. I was going to light some incense for you, but my lighter is gone. Okay, we have a lot to pull in from my favorite spirit team, the Galactic Council of Nine. They've been my guide since age 5. I'm Pamela Aaralyn, a clear conduit channel and trance channel. I'm known for what's called channeling humans from the future by locating into certain portions of the future to talk about your now. You can see a lot of those channelings on my playlist called Humans from the Future. Um, what else do I want to say? Who's all with me? Just want to say hi to everyone here live and thank you for supporting my channel. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing. Those subscriptions make so much difference in my world to be able to reach people with these channelings. So, oh, you guys are so sweet. I've been thinking about you too. It's been a rough week though. Like, I have not really wanted to be on YouTube this week because people are full alpha crazy right now. Insanity. Just absolutely insanity. With as old systems are breaking down, we don't really have new systems to replace them. So people are hanging on to old thought streams, old emotional consciousness that no longer serves you, old habits, old addictions, old judgments. And there's nothing really to replace that. And then energetically speaking, it feels crazy. It feels absolutely insane. So that's just to break it down for the simplicity of this, what we call the worm moon, and we can um, talk to you from the council's perspective about what that is. But every year around this time, we get, I believe we get at least one worm moon. And from the farmer's almanac perspective, the birds come out and they're yanking the worms out of the ground. But from the metaphysical perspective, as we go into spring, we have to be willing to spring into a new consciousness. We can't be holding on to old ways. And yet, simultaneously, as those systems are breaking down, a lot of people are feeling very unsafe and they're not sure how to even build a new system in their life. And we need to start on that individually, as opposed to looking at like old government systems, banking systems, finances. What can we do to start with our systems? What old systems that we have, our attachments, our habits, and when I say habits, I don't just mean smoking cigarettes or what you're eating. I'm talking about painful, toxic habits mentally as well are coming out during this full moon lunar eclipse. And we need to be willing to let them go, even if we don't know what the new thought system or belief system in us is going to look like. We need to be willing to let that go. Okay. A lot of you are also asking about how to find my most recent updates on crypto and things of that nature. So I want to let you know that if you're watching these lives, whenever you watch any of my channelings, that I am not a financial advisor, nor am I a doctor. And if you continue to watch this, you understand that and agree to the terms of and conditions listed at the top of the chat. Okay. Just to know that. Um, with Josh, that's who we channeled on Patreon for a lot of different informations about crypto and investments. He is from 2030 and he is a hotshot 28-year-old Wall Street advisor who loves crypto. So he was fun. He was really funny and he was very very secure about his predictions. I was a little insecure about it. I'm like, really, Scotty, the AI? And then he was like, yeah, you guys get in on it, or you're not going to be able to do anything with that if you don't get in now. This last call, and he was right. It launched and it did like a crazy 30 million launch or something like crazy like that, and people lost out because they weren't paying attention to that with what he was saying. He talked a lot about green. What was it? Green Bitcoin as well, and its potential and some other things. So he talked about a bunch of different things. Yeah, and also in my last channeling, we talked about leaving Princess Kate Middleton alone and letting her have her privacy. And I told you what the council said about that, which is likely a health issue that she didn't want anybody to know, and she has every opportunity to kind of be with her family and not have people get into her life. And then shortly thereafter, a few days later, she came forth and said exactly that, that it was what the council said it was. And we do just need to continue to release the idea that there's some big conspiracy going on. I just wanted to throw that out there. Nothing has happened to her. The royal family isn't doing something to her. She genuinely has a cancer. There's nothing, no conspiracy behind this, and people want to make something huge out of that. With Princess Catherine. So we need to really let that go. Okay. Really let that go. Give this family their space and drop the conspiracies, is what the council is advising on that, which we should have done to begin with. And I shouldn't say we, because I had a sense of what was going on and I stayed out of it until people kept emailing me and messaging me, begging me to channel about it. So here's my channeling about it. She genuinely has cancer and we need to leave her alone. There is no conspiracy, right? Yeah, and she is gonna be fine, absolutely, but right now, we just need to give her her space, and pretty much always we need to give royals their space and anyone their space, not royals, we need to give anyone their privacy. Everyone has a right to that, you know? And yes, that all these conspiracy theories, the king is still alive. Yes, it's still Kate. No, she has not been replaced. Um, she is going to be your queen one day, UK. I just wanted to really put that out there that everyone is doing very, very well. I've been a little bit more concerned about Charles than I have been her, quite honestly, in terms of his battle with it has been harder than hers so far. And just his age and just general stuff. Anyone could understand that. Doesn't take me predicting it for you to understand that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. People are talking about how in chat about how nutty it was. So let's just give her plenty of love and support and backup. Give her space. Okay, so the full moon lunar eclipse coming up, like I said, full on out of control insanity from humanity as old systems are breaking down further. All right. The energies are rather diabolical. They're a little intense. You'll see people's dark sides coming out, people's insecurities coming out, full alpha. It's kind of a crazy eclipse. So we're going to talk about a few things that you need to watch out for. Okay. Yeah. Okay. With the crypto stuff, guys, just hold off for a minute with your questions because I really need to get this other stuff out of the way. But with Scotty the AI, it just launched. You can, it's listed on Binance, but I don't know what platform it's on. So you'll have to research that one on your own. Okay. Let's see. So the first thing that I'm hearing from them today is that many people are coming forth in this full moon lunar eclipse questioning not just your purpose. Purpose was all about the last eclipse where we were really deeply invigorated by wanting to understand our own individual purpose. But right now, in this lunar eclipse, in this full worm moon, we're not only questioning our purpose, but we're questioning how our purpose serves the purpose of life itself. More people are looking at how to work on themselves so that their purpose can be significantly meaningful um, with the world and with Earth and with other people, right? So that's one thing, because it's great to start out when you're questioning your purpose, but when you start questioning how your purpose actually becomes of service right now, um, for Ascension, for New Earth, this becomes a beautiful thing. So that is one of the more lovely things about this. All right. The second thing that they're telling me has to do with this urgency. There is this energetic, physical, very physical urgency for people to take sacred actions and manifestation to reach their potential. Manifestation is high on the agenda for most of us right now during this lunar eclipse, and people are starting to really think about Okay, I'm tired of this same thing happening in my life. So, what can I do, even in small baby steps, to move into a different plan of action that is more sacred and reverent to my purpose and how my purpose serves Earth? And it's not just thinking about it. There's this urgency. People are investing. People are creating, different ideas and goals that they've had on the shelf for a very long time, and they're finally feeling. I wouldn't necessarily say confident to step in, but just a knowingness that, confident or not, worried or not, that certain sacred actions need to be brought forth. Okay. So that's wonderful. It's wonderful that people are manifesting in a way of not just waiting, like the last lunar eclipse, people were kind of waiting on signs and waiting on more symbologies to show them what was right for manifestation. But this is an action based manifestation where people are saying, okay, I want something really different out of life, and I am responsible for creating that. And I'm going to do even the smallest little thing to move in that direction. And it's urgent, this urgent feeling, right? I don't know how many people of you here live with me today are feeling that, but it's big during this lunar eclipse. The third thing that I want to talk about from the council has to do with these old systems that are breaking down and humanity going insane about it. You're wanting new forms of finance, but you don't want to spend money on it, and you're afraid to lose money. You're wanting new forms of investment, but you're afraid to take a risk. You're wanting the bank systems to be built up, but simultaneously you're still feeding it and dropping all your money into it consecutively, like continuously. Like, we can't want old systems to change while simultaneously not really doing much individually about putting our money elsewhere and spending our money elsewhere, you know? So it's like, it feels, the symbology that they're giving me is like a cat hanging onto a tree and its claws and a tornado's coming by, and it's like blowing, 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 and the cat's like moving around, And yeah, and they're and all they have to do is let go, but they're afraid they're gonna get hurt, which is understandable. Like, the wind's blowing, you're afraid, winds of change, so many things are coming, and you're afraid you're gonna get hurt. So that is completely understandable that you're afraid. I get it, but it's time to let go of those old ways and old paradigms. Even though we don't have new systems to replace these broken systems, if you don't like religion, why are you still going to church every Sunday? If you don't like being a part of the major banking systems, do something about it and take your money out of it and put it elsewhere. Right? Not all in a fell swoop. You want to be safe about it. You want to do your own research. Again, this is just overall general advice from the council on how to change individually. Perhaps you feel like you still need an old banking system, but you want to switch to a safer credit union that you've researched, that you would feel safe about going into these harder times coming up between 2028 and 2030. Um, the council and a lot of my humans from the future have predicted a lot of hard times between 2028 and 2030, but that's not unusual. Another spirit guide of mine, Dolores Cannon, is also coming about with that, and telling us about some of her visions for what's happening, what she feels is going to happen, based upon some of her research when she was alive, and based upon some of her predictions now that she's in spirit. She's saying the same thing. We're going to struggle with these old systems collapsing between 2028 and 2030, right? Um, and it's okay that we don't have new systems yet. So we have to think about what we want to do in the meantime. What is the next most believable step to keep money safe until we move into systems without monies, right? It's That's going to be a long time that we actually have devaluations of the dollar. A lot of the humans from the future, like 99.9% of them, have said that the dollar is not devaluing anytime soon. So if you're waiting on that to happen, it's not. It's actually going to be really, really good. We don't have any need or worry for economic crashes until later this year, around November. That's when we start to go into some problems. And we can ask any questions that you have about that with the council. But those are just problems that we come out of. We come out of, and then we don't have another major, major crash and devaluation of different currencies, particularly in the US, UK, and Canada, until 2028. And then we recover again. And then there's a huge one in 2030. So these things are coming up. And what you need to be doing is trying to think about where you want to hold your monies. Where do you want your investments? Doing your research about what cryptocurrency platforms you're using, which ones are safe, which ones are not, um, things like that, like doing your research on what banks you do trust while the other ones are falling apart. because they are going to be falling apart. A lot of them are, but the dollar itself is still very valued for a long time. Okay. All right. Another one is people are feeling this urgency to speak more of their truth, but not just speaking truth in a way that would typically, when you think of speaking truth, you think about just saying exactly what is on your mind, no filters. It's not that. It's speaking truth in a neutral way that provides peace. So, people wanting to speak truth with clarity for the purpose of unification, understanding, and peace between themselves and others. So, this is coming up really, really strongly. Okay. Like, can we look at how to speak truth without necessarily hurting people, but how to speak what we feel without shooting darts in people's direction, right? And speaking clearly as opposed to holding back, like letting your truth come out very neutrally and very clearly. That's a theme during this lunar eclipse. Okay. So there's a unique heaviness in this particular eclipse system. That's because the energies of change and transition are so powerful. It's like a pull to change individually and collectively. Many people are wanting something different and they're angry, angry, angry that the different isn't here. But the only people that are going to create that difference is you and me and all of us watching today. We are the ones that are going to create those differences. It's not like somebody comes along and just creates new systems and we're always waiting on that somebody. It's us that begins to create that individually by no longer placing money in places where it doesn't belong, by no longer voting for political, not in parties, I don't want to say, but the council says people who don't belong, like neither of the two that are primarily coming in are going to make any big changes for you. Not Trump, not Biden, neither one of them. If everybody really, really looked at this and voted for someone younger, less arrogant, less memory problems, less diabolical, whatever the case is, I'm just saying general words that could apply to either one. We could understand that we need a difference. We need a change, and Americans can't keep voting in the same thing and then being pissed that change doesn't happen, you know? So that heaviness is there. And part of the releasing an old paradigm, and let's see if we're going to do it, is to try to vote in someone different. I don't think that we're going to. I think we're going to obviously vote in like what we think is the lesser of the two evils. And America in particular is split right down the middle. And both of these are very different evils who do not belong in the White House. So I can only encourage you so far. I don't have like a million views on this platform. Do not vote for either one of these people. Do something different. My predictions show us that we're definitely going to vote for one or the other. But I'm hoping that maybe just by putting this out here from the council, that we can lift this heaviness in this eclipse and understand that we need to vote differently. We still have time to not vote any of these clowns in. All right. So we need to. We're having this powerful energy that needs to be addressed regarding releasing our old paradigms, both individually and collectively, our old ways of thinking, our old ways of judging, our old habits, primarily mentally and belief systems. So these old paradigms of judgments, attachments, and habits are coming up both mentally and physiologically right now for us to just release, whether or not we want you know, Trump or Biden or whatever. It's not all about that. It's about whatever individual patterns we're holding on to that make us really pissed off about power and placement of power and lack of power in the right places in the world right now, particularly in the geopolitical realm. All right. So the number 7 is coming up really strongly in numerology, life path right now. You'll see a lot of people who follow numerology and you follow sign symbols and numbers. The number 7 will be coming up in your visions, in your intuitive downloads, etc. So that's really significant because it's like, think about it: 7 chakras, 7 mystical laws, 7 universal laws, 7 graces. Um, there's 7 teachings, and what does that relate to? It's a portion of the Christ consciousness that involves healing pain and suffering. It's the shadow of the Christ consciousness, which is about taking back your power. So all of that is coming up right now as well. All right. And those are the major things. I want you to consider joining me for a March 26th coming up a live spiritual development Q&A to go over this further and to answer your own questions. I've got that link in the description at the top of the chat. I am doing a Easter channeling of Jesus and Mary Magdalene for charity. The charity is momshouse.org. The link is givebutter / Pamela Aaralyn. Again, you can find the crypto expert from this month on my Patreon channel. All right. Now it's time to go over your questions and go deeper into some of these energies. I'm going to pull up the chat on my screen. Now, I will not scroll back for questions. So if you put in questions already, just copy and paste if you don't mind. Yeah. Um, how are economic stability in Southeast Asia? They could be better, the council says. It's not particularly overly volatile right now with this lunar eclipse, but it'll have the same effect as the American economic fallout coming up predicted for November, but not until then for Southeast Asia. Okay. Uh, no, we're not getting anything specific for 444. It's more of a 7 energy in this particular eclipse. All right. Next question. Can the council tell us anything about Estonia? Is it better to move or stay? They're saying some of you light workers are what we call anchor placements. And regardless of safe or not, you will choose to stay in certain areas um, for the reasons of uplifting the consciousness and the ascension. Right. No matter where you go, you'll notice that there will be some turmoil because you are a light anchor. Does that make sense? So Estonia is safe right now. There's nothing coming up for this month. We will do predictions as we do world predictions as we do monthly, but they are safe right now. Let's see. Just scrolling through questions. Candace, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Underground. Okay. Consideration of a peace treaty for Lebanon that is not it's not considered for very long. It's not approved, but there is some talks and some peace negotiations that don't go well. This is a war that will still, unfortunately, still be going on for a very long time. Like the council does not predict it ending anytime soon, um, and it's like whenever the changes happen, then people fight, particularly changes regarding civil rights and religious rights and voting rights, and there's so much coming up over the next 10 years with Lebanon for rights for women, and then those rights go through in the next 10 years, surprisingly enough, all those things that we just, listed. Many people would be surprised to see that a lot of those rights go through, but then people create wars because certain laws were implemented about women's rights, and there's more war about that, not less. So people have to adjust as that old patriarchal energy is dying off, and it is they mean literal when they say dying off. There is like people in power that are literally not going to be in that power over the next few years. So a lot of those old leaders pass away or have things happen, some natural, some not. And that's going on as well. It's going to take some of that to happen, the old leadership to die off before new leadership gets in. And there, even when new leadership does get in, then there are people still fighting for rights over what different portions of the land that they still believe belong to them from thousands and thousands of years. And I don't research much about Lebanon, so I am not in a place to make any certain judgments about it. It just breaks my heart to see that it continues. Every time I look at it, it just continues. I'm not seeing um, anything calming down anytime soon. Yeah. Uh, this question says there are some conflicting informations on whether or not we're still in Kali Yuga. Some say we're in Dwapara Yuga. Can the council elaborate on it? They're saying that it's neither. There is a bridge happening between the two consciousness periods, between those two eras. And we are on that bridge, looking back and holding on to things that we need to let go of from Kali Yuga, and that's preventing us from moving forward into the other energy consciousness. Let's see. Is the war getting worse? Which war? Be specific. Will psychedelics become legal soon? Where? Be specific, guys, or your question will just get skipped over because we have so many. Will William be the last king? Um, no, no, because then there will be a queen. So it's not necessarily a question to be asking about that, but who is the last monarch? And that is not dying off anytime soon. Health symptoms for the eclipse for Ascension. Let's look at it. Thanks for your question. The council says there are a lot of like energetic eruptions in collective society, like people like fighting for their rights and wanting to fight for peace, which is the interesting paradox. But how that's showing up physically is that our body is in eruption mode as well. So there are physical skin symptoms, acne getting worse, psoriasis getting worse, particularly plaque psoriasis, inflammation symptoms with rheumatoid and osteoarthritis symptoms worsening, um, a lot of skin stuff coming up, inflammatory skin stuff coming up, which is the biggest health symptom on the eclipse. Okay. Uh, let's see. Sorry, it's skipping. I was trying to go in a certain order, but it's just skipping. When will the war in Ukraine end? Currently, on the current alignment, and keep in mind that could always change, that's not until 2028 on the current alignment. Let's see. You mentioned floods in the Ozarks mid-April in another live. Will that be Missouri or Arkansas? That is Arkansas, around the Ozarks near Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas specifically. Washington State is pretty peaceful this month. Thank you for asking. Beautiful area. In regards to Brazil, you've been asking me for a while, and I've been watching this one with the predictions from the council, and what they're reminding me of again, is to understand what's going on between these civil rights between individual landowners in densely forested areas, particularly rainforests, but all densely forested areas. Um, so there are indigenous people and locals that are fighting to hold their lands without all of this incredible infiltration from loggers and people that are continuing to desecrate the forest. So it's coming up in a big way where there are some laws coming up this year that are implemented that give original landowners their rights back in terms of noise and in terms of, you know, you're trying to hold like some sort of retreat and then, in a healing space and to have peaceful property, and then people are just desecrating the land all around. So, and then there's some other lobbying coming up in laws regarding where you can and can't log, and what the punishment would be for people coming in when they do not have legal rights and chopping down wood when they do not have legal rights. So that's coming up this year in a big way. Yeah. Does Scotty the AI still have potential? Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but the council predicts yes, huge potential. Let's see. Will the US war on drugs end soon? No. Just a general no. We're nowhere near that, unfortunately, because we don't have what the council says about that is that we don't have the mental health support systems. So, so people still want drugs, and they would tend to, you know, go from a plug off the street that they can afford more than they would go to a dispensary, to get particularly marijuana. But when you get into the heavier drugs and the influence with cartel, when you look at it from that perspective, that's not ending anytime soon either. So, and overall, one of the things that I've been really observing from the council is the mental health care system, particularly in the United States, is so terrible that people will go to drugs because they work and they're so desperate and they work even temporarily. Um, if people want to go illegally, and go buy some drugs and then suddenly they're not feeling depressed anymore in a certain way, that's working better than these ridiculous psychiatric medications that take months to years to get the right kind and even then have such atrocious side effects and may or may not work anyway. So, this is an unfortunate thing that is happening in the US healthcare systems, particularly the mental healthcare system. So, that is why the war on drugs continues in a bigger way. It's not just the bigger war on drugs with the cartels and things of that nature and different mob related activity. That's calmed down a little, but it's something else now. Like we have a war on drugs in our own homes. So, let's see. Let's see. This one says, I heard that Bill Gates has bought a lot of farmland in America. Are his intentions going to be a detriment to the US? The council says right now, yes. But how do you say this? It's not, the family does something different with his land. And when he passes this earth, um, he still hasn't implemented all the plans that he had. And then the family does something different with it anyway. That's no longer a detriment. Yep. Okay. Will the US healthcare system fall? Yes, not soon, but most people just don't even wanna go. Even when I don't know, like, to give you an example, like, my insurance company calls all the time and leaves these messages trying to get me to get a physical, and I'm a very healthy person. I don't need to go get a physical. I know exactly what my body's doing, but it leaves me messages daily, voice messages saying, "You need to go get a physical." People don't wanna go to the doctor. They would rather, seek alternative healthcare medications and seeking so much in that regard because, they know that it doesn't work, and it's so expensive, and they could spend their money elsewhere. So, will trucking pay get better, in the US in the next few years? Not this year. Um, there's something coming up this fall. Right now, I'm just gonna say this fall because it could be October or November, for some sort of a I never understand the words that to use here because the council has a different word for riot than I do. So it's like, it's not exactly a riot, but it's something involving a strike for, um, 4 different major trucking companies in the US this fall. So that's something I did wanna talk about today. Thank you for the reminder. And these are major trucking companies that, handle a lot of, supply chain demand for food, and they don't these companies are the workers are just, um, on strike, which causes some supply chain issues, particularly in the West. So that's California, Nevada, Arizona, Colorado, Washington, Oregon. It primarily affects those areas, but it could also affect some portions of the Midwest, like the Dakotas, North Dakota specifically, coming up for October and November. So I wanted to let you know about that. Yeah. Okay. Just going to take a few more questions and then we'll close for the day. Is Florida safe to live in for the next 10 years? The council will take that one. That's a broad thing to look at that could easily change, but what's right now on the energetic alignment is that we have a terrible hurricane season coming up this year, particularly for the Miami and Southern Miami area. Yeah. And we'll keep looking at that year by year, and there are more hurricanes coming to the area, not less. And then there are little pockets of safety, you know, Sarasota. There are little pockets of safety, like Crystal River, that no matter what happens, that people just spiritually know that they don't need to leave. They're fine. So there are pockets of safety, and otherwise a lot more coming water-wise for Florida in the next 10 years. Uh East Coast weather, no hurricanes this year coming up from what we can predict, but we will keep an eye on it throughout the rest of the year. There are, particularly for Boston and up, Boston and that whole area, it's like a not a hurricane, but a tropical storm, like a lot of flooding coming into the city this year, in really unusual times where you wouldn't typically expect big rain. Because it's, like, right there towards the end of the summer. Um, some people in the West, like, would call that, like, a monsoon season or a monsoon rain. It's similar to that. Mhm. What is significant coming up for Ireland? Well, you know, one of your leaders just retired, and whoever replaces them is not aligned in your best interest. Not necessarily that they're having, um, evil intentions or anything like that. It's that health-wise, mentally, they're not prepared to handle that particular position, because, you know, how are you gonna handle someone in, like, the biggest position in the world after this, retirement? Uh, and the person comes in and they're just not mentally prepared. Within the first 6 months of holding the office, they have a major heart health problem. And then the very next year when they're in office, they're trying to break down systems that have been a part of Irish culture, that have been a foundation of Irish culture for hundreds of years, and they're wanting to take a go at it. So I wonder about that. I wonder, like, where is this person coming from and wanting to do that? Because the Irish political systems are working right now, and they have for a long time, and they're working for a reason. So why do we want to break things down that are working? Like, we're trying to fix a wheel that isn't broken, is what the council is saying, and this person's coming in like, "I'm gonna fix this, and I'm gonna fix that," and it's a disaster. Yeah. What is a good trade to start learning for the future? Cheryl, that is an excellent question. What future do you want me to look at for good trades? We can look at it year by year if you want. Give me, a year that you want me to look at for successful future trade work. 2026, okay. Um, Carpentry, woodworking, home renovation, construction, plumbing, uh, Food technologies, um, robotics, particularly for the engines of cars. Yeah. Um, and permaculture. How is the weather coming up gonna affect Louisiana? When? When do you want me to look at what month do you wanna Louisiana does get some major flooding this year from a tropical storm, particularly around, Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, those areas. Let's see. In what way? Lorraine, I'm looking at your question, but in what way? California's had it hard for years now, so in what way? Like, be more specific with your questions. Are there any major events to prepare for in Germany? Germany in 2030 gets involved in a war that they should not be involved in, and it's just their particular political leader at that time decides to go in for negotiations in a Middle Eastern situation, and they should not be a part of those negotiations. And it kind of makes people see them in a bad light because of they don't do the negotiations well. The German leader doesn't do that well. Um, so I'm concerned about that for Germany. Just, like, being involved in a behind the scenes period of civil unrest and feeling like they need to go in to help. But otherwise, I'm not seeing anything significant for Germany this year, except weather-related things. I'm not seeing any, geopolitical climate being disastrous at all for Germany this year. Everything seems to be calming down in that way. Yeah, will China attack Taiwan? I'm gonna keep looking at that for you, and the answer has always been yes, and it is still yes. Not this year. We're gonna keep looking at when, but it's not just will they attack, it's like multiple times. Social Security in the US for this year does not look like it's going anywhere. It is still stable. Okay. Are hairstylists safe as income? Well, where? Where do you live? In the US? Absolutely. Yeah. A lot more of the creative arts for makeup artists, hair artists, that's coming back as a bigger industry this year. 'Cause it's a feel-good industry, and people don't feel good overall, physically or mentally this year. There's a lot of energies of suppression where people are tired of feeling repressed, and suppressed, and they're coming out flying, and they just wanna feel better. So, a lot of those feel-good industries will be even better this year, all the way until 2030, you don't have to worry about that. And even then, you may not. We'll look at it again. Um Flooding for Arizona, that's coming in right now, 2nd week of July, for a bigger flood and for a smaller flood around the Sedona Cottonwood area for mid-June. Um, let's see. What kind of healing professions will do well in the US? For what time frame? Give me a time frame. Chelsea. Because it's looking a little bit better and different every year. Will Great Lakes survive the catastrophic climate change in the future? Yep, that's why I moved here. Because it keeps looking like this will be one of the places that everybody will try to move to. Um, yeah. What are Putin's next steps? Right now, the council says he's calm. He's had moments where he's very predictable and moments where he's not, but right now he's slowing down. Right now it's calming down. and we'll keep an eye on it every month. Um, well, that's a broad time frame to look for. So, and things are going to change all the time depending upon what we're going through, Chelsea. But in the next 5 years as a whole, many new healing modalities are going to become important. But it's healing modalities involving light, violet light, ultraviolet light, uh, infrared light, anything that combines light with sound is going to be bigger, all over the world, not this just in the US and Canada or UK, like everywhere. Now here are some of the modalities that are not working out so well. Over the next 5 years, there are so many Reiki masters, so many hands-on healers. So some of the healing modalities that are more modern and created because since 2020, it's like it kind of blew up. The whole spiritual industry blew up, so no one knows really who to trust anymore. So unfortunately, the market for healing has exploded in that it's not that it's a bad industry anymore, it's that it's overrun, you know. It's overrun. And I think that people that are waking up are feeling really sad about that because they want to find their particular niche, and you have to have a niche if you're going to make it as a healer in this world coming up, right? Art is going to be incredible. Art sales are going to be incredible in the next 5 years. That the creative industries are absolutely flourishing, but the healing industry is like it has its pitfalls, and then unusual forms of healing are coming out that are less about spiritual healing, but more about the scientific nature of brainwave technologies and combining light and sound. So get in on that while you can. Yep. Uh, are there any countries in Asia we should avoid traveling to this year due to natural disaster? Um, Thailand around the monsoon seasons, and particularly in that time frame of when they would get their monsoons. It's not real atypical for when that comes this year. A lot of, water this year, way too much water damage this year in Thailand. Will we have drought in Spain this year? It's a good question. The council says yes, particularly July, August, some portions of June, but July, August is pretty hard for drought in Spain this year, and farmers have a difficult time recovering from that. This is a fun question. This question says, "Does the council prefer electric cars or gas cars right now?" And each of them have incredible detriment. You'd be surprised by their answer. I mean, automatically they like electric better most of the time. However, electric is also having a big drain um, on the ozone in its own unique way. And like many of the humans from the future have predicted, when I do that bilocation style channeling, there will be competitors to the main car on the market, to the Tesla industry. And that competitor is going to change the specific type of battery that is so detrimental on the environment. And then the council may like electric cars better, but right now they equally can't stand both. And they suggest that we all kind of like become like our ancestors did in ways of getting on, you know, horses, bicycles, etcetera, and trying to run more, trying to walk more to our locations, trying to spend less energy in both electric or gas cars, that we can kinda stay a little bit more locally and tend to our earth and our local environments right now. That would be the best thing for Earth, is less travel and more connection to nature, more walking, more running, more bicycles, etcetera. When will extreme weather calm down? It's actually amping up the next 10 years. It's not calming down. These are the calm periods, my friends. Yep. We already covered Italy. Let's see. Will the Big Island, Hawaii, be a safe place to live over the next 20 years? No. Every time I look at that, I still get no, and I keep looking at it. Around early 2031, there's some severe volcanic damage, and severe water damage as well, not just in the Big Island, but surrounding areas in that time frame. And we're gonna keep looking to see if maybe we have, um, changed that timeline, but right now it's not looking great. That's a real general question. Someone said, "When will most homeless people have housing?" Well, where? Every area is slightly different in terms of, how we're doing with the homeless, but in the US, not anytime soon. The homeless situation in California is not predicted to get too far anywhere anytime soon, but there is some legislation coming in predicted for 2026, um, where people can't turn down homeless people for temporary living environments. And that legislation takes a long time to get through, but it begins to go into the systems then in early 2026. Yep. Insofar as Armenia and that century-long war, Um, it does end eventually with a lot of disclosure for political crimes with people that you don't expect to be charged, people that you did not think, had evil agenda, and it surprises a lot of Armenians. Um, but it's gonna take some time. Right now, we're predicting 2032, for the end right now of that very long war. Okay. Is Utah a good place to live? What part? Um, Utah is very prepared for the very cold weather that's coming during these unique weather shifts and changes. Um, and the areas surrounding Salt Lake City gets some problems with ice and snow this year, and some major roadways around Salt Lake City have problems, and I keep getting these visions of people getting stuck on the road and having problems getting to work because the roads are so damaged from um, unusual periods of icing, followed by the way that the water runoff happens, the way that the water runoff happens. It's unusual, and a lot of flooding happens in and around those mountainous areas around Salt Lake City. Even Park City gets a major flood this year from that unusual pattern of runoff. Yeah. Will the immigration crisis ever be solved in the US? Well, it's not predicted soon, according to the council, to be solved. And here is an unusual, unpopular take from the council. Uh, they understand that you need your jobs and you want your jobs, and people are coming in and taking jobs. But you have Americans who don't want to work. You don't want to do labor, particularly hard labor, factory labor, landscaping type of labor. And then you have people that are coming in that are willing to do the jobs that you Americans don't want to do, which is a foundation to our society. Immigrants built this country, and you don't wanna work, but you don't want immigrants here. Like, this is kind of the battle right now. And then there really is a problem insofar as those jobs being given to people, but it's primarily because, um, you guys don't want the work. So that's that. And then there are other portions of this problem that the council would have to break down, with healthcare, living status, things like that. That starts to get better over the course of the next year and a half. It's gonna take some time with that portion of the immigration concerns in the US. Um, But the work-related problems continue because Americans still don't wanna work, and you don't wanna hear this. I know it's not a popular take, but you're always gonna have immigrants coming into the country to hold jobs that you don't want, right? And they do need proper health care to be able to stay, right? Will Trump see jail time or accountability? No. No and no. Any UFO sightings in Canada in the next 6 months? Yes, but not in a major way. Not in a major way. Is Romania a somewhat safe place? Council did like this. When? There are some problems coming up in Romania. Um, and it's more political, financial, economical, things like that, with your leaders making terrible decisions. So economic stress coming up for Romania this year and next year. See, that's what I'm talking about right there. I do not let me get catalyzed by that comment. I'm just gonna someone in chat is saying Kate Middleton is dead already. No, she isn't. We need to stop the conspiracy and leave this family alone. No more talking about it. You know what happened and what she said is true. And all these conspiracies aren't helping the family heal. I'm gonna call you on that if you're sitting there in my chat doing that. And all of these things, like there are people that think that Biden's dead and it's a clone, that Trump is dead and it's a clone, that so that we have an okay. Okay. So even if that were true, what are you gonna do about it? Like how does it help us to know who has been cloned and who hasn't? I have very unpopular opinions about that because the council says it just really doesn't help us to go into this, to go down that rabbit hole. But no, she's not cloned. No, nothing happened to her. Yes, she's safe and she's telling the truth. She had cancer and now she's in preventive treatment for it. All of that is just the truth, and conspiracy is not helping us. And I don't know why, like, even with the people who have been cloned, why does it help us to know that? If they have been, so what? Like, what are we gonna do about it? We have other things to do. We have other things to do. South Africa becomes a hub for ET sightings this year around December. It's, like, kind of in the middle of nowhere, out in places where you just kinda don't expect it. Yeah. Finland, my predictions this year are incredibly safe, incredibly well off economically. Things get better for you, not worse this year. You're in a great place this year. Coming up, I'd say by June or July, things are going very, very well in Finland. So I'm not seeing any safety concerns right now there. We'll keep looking at it though. Yeah. Yeah. All right. We've been at it an hour. So I'm going to go ahead and go. Um, Please pay mind to the top of the chat for more live channelings and live classes. I do them quite often over my Patreon channel. That's where a lot of my crypto work with the Human from the Future from 2030. I channeled him this month. You can see that channeling there. Yeah. Insofar as readings with me, the council, and the Meet Your Future Self, those book out pretty fast. We're booked out about 3.5 months to 4 months. But every day something opens up. So if you just keep your eye on the calendar, you could be lucky and get in every day a little bit more open up and it trickles that way. So it's not like you can't get in and the calendar says things like, oh, she's booked out for 3 years, which isn't true. All right. So you just have to keep an eye on it if you want a reading, because sometimes there are cancellations or whatever that you could get in as well. Okay, I will see you guys really, really soon. You want more music? Oh my goodness. I have a whole thing here, the Pamela Aaralyn music channel, but I do most of my music either on Patreon or randomly you'll see a sound healing coming up and on this channel every now and then. Okay. I'll see you guys really soon. Bye-bye.